Hello, how are you? And I hope that you are doing well. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Janet Shane. And why am I talking about traumatic or TBI? And do you know what that means? TBI stands for Traumatic Brain Injury Survivors, a traumatic brain injury. And then I am a survivor of 32 years. Today I'm going to do something different than what I normally do. I'm gonna just I prayed before I came on, and let's see what comes out that you need. Someone needs to hear whatever's gonna come out of my mouth. I don't know what it is and who it is, but I trust it. Talking about that, trust. Since the moment that I realized what had happened to me, I was at the rehab hospital, and they gave me my first shower since the accident, which had been a month probably. But I was awake, and they put me in the chair, and they put me in the shower, and they washed my hair, and they washed my body, and I was 20 years old. I was never so humiliated in my whole life. I knew I was 20 years old, and that what they were doing, I should be doing on my own. But I knew there was no way I could do it. None. Because the left side of my body was paralyzed. I couldn't move it. I couldn't see very well at all. And I'll never forget the doctor saying, well, you can't see because you have double vision. And I'm like, why can't, no, I don't. Why don't I see two of you? And well, what I didn't know is my eyes were super dilated, and with the left side being paralyzed, I went around and I had my left eye closed all the time. I was really only looking with my right only, and I didn't know it. And when I went into the ophthalmologist and I saw two of the lines with the letters, it freaked me out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I do have double vision. And then I learned that I was like millimeters from possibly losing my hearing. And that would have been really detrimental, because I was a musician. I'm still a musician in a different way now. And I almost lost what actually is a foundational to bring me to where I am today. But God delivered. I didn't lose my hearing, and my vision was really, really, really poor for a very long time. I ended up going back to college, not being able to read and not being able to see well at all. And it's scary. And I remember telling my mom, I feel like an ant that anyone can squish at any time. And she's like, oh, Janet. And I'm like, it's okay, Mom. I said, I'm mighty. I'm going to make it. You told me I can do this. I'm going to do it. And so that was my thing. But I also, after I realized in the chair, I stopped and I had my come to Jesus moment. And I said, Jesus, this isn't okay. I'm 20 years old. I'm going to get my degree. I'm going to get married, and I'm going to have kids. At that time, that's all I could focus on, because my mom had told me, as you had seen in the post, that I could do anything that I was doing before. I just had to teach a new part of my brain to do it. Hence, I'll have you know, this was in 1993, and the word neuroplasticity was not used like it is today. And what she was teaching me was neuroplasticity. The science was there. So that shows it really is real. Even before it had a name, it was real. Because that's why I am who I am, along with God. Because my mama delivered his message. And I listened. And every day, I gave thanks for being able to do one new thing that I couldn't do when I got up in the morning. Some days it was big milestones, and sometimes it was little ones. Like being able to swallow a new food, get dressed on my own, doing my own hair. Simple things that I definitely didn't struggle at before. But I was facing a new life, and I was positive about it. And what I also realized is I was unique in the fact that I wanted to know the truth. I'll never forget the day when the surgeon came to take out my G-tube out of my stomach, because I'd been getting fed by a machine because I couldn't swallow. I couldn't do anything, like literally could not eat. And I asked the gentleman, I said, is this going to hurt? And he says, no. It might just tickle a little. And I went, okay. And so he yanked, and oh my gosh, I felt my whole insides moving and turning, and it hurt. And I stopped breathing. Like, I truly stopped breathing. And the nurse is like, Janet, breathe, Janet, breathe, Janet, breathe. And I went, and I looked at him and I said, you lied. You lied to me. He's like, well, I thought if I told you the truth, you wouldn't let me take it out. And I said, but I told you I wanted to know the truth. And I hope that if you're hearing this message, if you want to know the truth, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I will empathize with you, and I'm here for you, and I will guide you. But I will tell you nothing but the truth. It's how I'm wired. It's the only way that I know to be. And life isn't easy after a traumatic brain injury. There are lots of things that we have to overcome. Physically, mentally, socially. Just the everyday task take us longer. And then the psychologist had said, you know, you're going to need to go through the grieving process. And she gave me the grieving process. You know, and at the bottom, the last step is acceptance. I went many, many years believing that I had acceptance, and then my husband and I would have a talk, and I would get I would have this resistance to what he was saying, and he's like, you haven't accepted. The way you're acting is proof that you haven't accepted. And I'm like, when? I said, am I ever going to accept this? And he's like, I don't know. I don't know. And I can tell you that by having a job that I loved, but also had started a business with travel that I loved, and it challenged me in ways that having a job didn't, and had benefits that I could work it around my own schedule and the family, that I got introduced to personal development. And I felt, and it was where I struggled. I truly struggled. And I would sit here and I'd say to myself, but I could do one small step every day to get better, to be who I am. Why can't I achieve what I'm wanting to achieve in this business? And then that great job that I had, which I was a paraprofessional in a student disability room, was taken away because it was mentally, physically draining every day. And they were going to move me to a school that was going to be farther away, that wasn't going to be, I didn't get paid enough to do that. But I was also the substitute teacher because I had my subbing license, because I had my bachelor's degree. But it was gone, and I looked at my husband and I said, I'm just going to go all in on my business. And he's like, okay. Well, there were different ranks that you could achieve in it. It was a network marketing business, and everyone that was hitting that milestone, like that big rank, I had gotten to 1, 2, and 3, and then a 4th, but to get to that 5th one, I couldn't get close. And everyone that was achieving it would say, It had to come from the inside. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I had no clue. Like, and I even, when I started getting coaching for mindset to help me to achieve what I wanted to achieve, I told the coach, I said, they keep saying they got to get it from the inside out. What does that mean? And he's like, you're going to learn with time and implementing and doing the work in the modules. You're going to figure it out. And I did. But I also then, COVID had hit, and I switched to health because I learned with the accident, just because it hurts here doesn't mean that that's where it's stemming from. It could be stemming from somewhere else in my body. And so I wanted, actually, when I went back to try to get a job, I tried to be a physical therapy assistant or an occupational therapy assistant. But those doors didn't open. And God has proven more than one time, like with almost every job I've ever had in my life, no matter how good it is, it always ends. And not because of doing something wrong, but the situation just transforms. And God has proven that I'm not meant to have a job. I'm meant to have a business. And I'm meant to have this business of helping other traumatic brain injury survivors with how they see the world, how they experience the world, and how they can tap inside themselves. And you're not your mind, and you're not the body that you see in the mirror and that you get frustrated with. You are so much more. God saved you, just like He saved me. He doesn't keep junk. And when I read that in a book, that really hurt. Like, I'm going to be very honest, because I kind of saw myself as junk. Because I couldn't get a job like everyone else, like the world says to have, and without hurting. And they always ended, and I was so frustrated. And even with building this business, which having my own business outside of a network marketing business has been the absolute best thing I've ever done. I have moved to accepting what has happened to me. I understand that my accident happened so I could be right here, right now, talking to you. Yeah, you. I don't know who you are yet, but I want to get to know you. God saved me to help others. What I've learned helps everyone, but I had to be obedient and accept that I am a survivor, and that I'm not ever going to be, as much as I try to be like everyone else and just be quote unquote normal. It doesn't work. I need to accept who I was. And with doing that, the mindset journey coaching with that company, there was a lot of work and identity shifting. And I continue to identity shift. And I'm continue to learn about identity shifting because it's important. It helps, but there are true foundations that I coach, and I have in my 3-week program that will change how you see and feel about yourself and the world. I've proven it with myself and other clients that I know it works. And I want to help you. That is truly why I am here. My family is now bigger, and my children are all out of high school, and I'm ready for this phase. I've been preparing for this moment. And I wrote another chapter for another book. I have, if you can see those right there, those are the 3 that I've written in so far, but I have a 4th one coming out here this next month. And it has a client testimonial in it. And if you don't want to believe me, believe her words. Because I have seen how she has evolved from when we met and we connected on a Zoom and she agreed to coaching, and her husband was like, absolutely do it, honey. We'll make it work. And she implemented everything. And that is truly what it's about. It's not about learning. Learning is great, but even better is when you take that knowledge and you implement it. And by becoming a coach, I signed up for that for life. I do that every day. I read to develop myself every day, and I take notes, and then I go and I try to implement it. One simple thing that I learned in the book that I'm in now is smiling. Not everybody deserves the same smile all the time. If there are 5 people lined up and I give them all then guess what? They're not going to feel special. So everybody gets the energy back that I receive. That's really hard because I smile really hard and really big all the time because I love to smile. It's really, if it could be a hobby, it's one of my favorites to just smile. Absolutely love smiling. And the other thing is when you're out and about, this isn't from this book, but a different book, is to send love and blessings. When you see someone and you want to maybe possibly judge them for something, just say, I send you love. I send you blessings inside your head, okay? You don't have to say it out loud for people to think that you're maybe a little different and a more awake than what you already are. But I always say, talking out loud keeps me sane. Oh, my husband always says, who are you talking to? And I'm like, just myself, it's okay. And and I have a son that does a lot of that, so he obviously learned from, you got it, from his mama. And another thing though is using the word you. How are you doing today? What are you doing this afternoon? Putting it as close to the beginning of a sentence so they know that you are talking about them makes them feel special. And it makes them perk their ears and listen to you all the more. Some good stuff. Things that probably a lot of people just know. But being 20 years old when I had my traumatic brain injury, a lot of that stuff needed to be relearned. And they can't teach you everything in therapy. They can't. There's absolutely no way. And speaking of which, before I started all this personal development journey, I was really bad about I wasn't very good at following through on doing tasks in the house, like turning off the lights when I leave the room, shutting the cupboard doors, hanging the keys up after I get home. Simple things like that. Picking up things that I set on the floor or set around and putting it away. When I started this coaching, one of the foundations I teach is called a 3-step system. And that 3-step system empowered me to start making the choices of following through. And I grew up on a dairy farm, and I would yell for dinner, for the people to come for dinner. And so in this house, I wouldn't yell at my children, but I would yell for my children. Yeah, Andrew, Isaac. But that stopped. The need for that. And I physically walked to them and talked to them. I stop when I'm getting overwhelmed or flustered, and I take a deep breath. Every morning I get still and I get calm, and quiet. I fought meditation because of my faith. I'm Catholic. I thought it was against my religion. It's not against my religion to get still and quiet. What it does is it makes me aware of all the things around me, and you are authentically awareness, made up of God's unconditional love, which is a whole nother ballgame and a whole nother thing that I can talk about. At the accident, I had a near-death experience, which I only realized a couple years ago that that's what it was called. I just knew what I had experienced. I didn't know it was considered a near-death, but I had always known right here in my heart that there was a moment when I was really, really tired, and I don't know what I was doing, but I was tired, and Jesus said, "You're gonna be okay," and I went, "Oh, okay," and I kept going. And I truly, truly believe if Jesus hadn't told me at that exact moment, I wouldn't be here. I would have died. I had a choice. As the Spirit had pointed out many years later, I had a choice, and I chose to live. And I'm like, that took me a hot moment to take in. Because I'm like, well, one, Jesus told me I was going to live. And who am I to not believe Jesus? I mean, seriously. And, but I do realize that, you know what, I didn't have to say yes to the Lord. I didn't. But then I probably would have not, I definitely would not be here talking to you today. And so I was meant to say yes. He hoped I'd say yes. Speaking of hope, I'm just kind of rolling with what's coming here. But hope is, before this mindset coaching and all of that, hope is a real foundation for my life. I have always kept the hope of being able to do this or being able to do that. I may not do it well, but I was going to prove to you that I could do it. So if you tell me I can't do something, that just is like fuel to the fire. And I was going to prove you wrong. And that was my mentality when I started healing in those first 2, 3, 4, 5 years while I was in college. And then that bubble, being in college, I was in a bubble. I was protected, and I got to be who I could be, the best me that I knew how to be. And I struggled, but I knew I was still accepted. And then I graduated, and I realized I had a degree that I didn't get certification for, that I couldn't use. And I found myself facing not being enough, not feeling good enough to be able to do anything. And I was physically being hurt to go do a customer service job that I did like. I did like the job, but I had to stand on my feet, and I had shattered my heel bone, my right heel bone, in the car accident, and I had a lot of pain, and I would take a lot of Advil. And if you don't know it, taking too much ibuprofen or Advil or Motrin, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. It can be really hard on your stomach with time. And then there were days when I went through a phase where I had migraines, and they were labeled. I went back to the doctor for the physical medicine doctor back at the rehab hospital, and he said, we did a CAT scan or an MRI, and he said, they're just post-traumatic headaches. There's nothing else different on your brain. I'm like, okay, so what does that mean? And he prescribed me ibuprofen, and basically I would take that, but I also had to be in a dark room and cut out the noise. And that lasted, and that would always come on when I was really super stressed and overwhelmed with life. that happened and was around for probably 3 to 5 years before I worked my way through that. And why they ended, I don't know. But I know that now, knowing what I know about grounding and breath work and meditation and that, and ending my showers with a cold shower is all ways that you can calm your nervous system. And our nervous systems are on rage. They are in fight and flight. And being in flight or fight mode is when we build up cortisol and visceral fat and all kinds of unhealthy things. Presence or awareness, mindfulness, whatever you want to call it, when you live there and not in the past and not in the future, that is where you will heal. And you can just let go of the things. I don't know how long I've been on here, but I want to tell you that you can do this too. I'm not any more special than you. I just got nudged by God to take steps on a journey that I didn't know if I could do or not. In becoming a certified coach, there was definitely nerves, and I was scared that I wasn't going to pass, and I did. And I did. I passed, and I even, like, he's like, I wasn't going to pass you. And I'm like, oh. He's like, no. He's like, I'm kidding. He's like, more. You need to just trust yourself. And when I started to trust myself and allow that gut instinct and listen to my heart happen, life started to change. During Lent, I did a Divine Mercy book with my church, and it would always end with trust, surrender, believe, and receive. Well, those words, along with humility, are 5 words that I truly do try my absolute best to live by every day. Humility. To know that I can always do something better and be a better person. Trust. Trust in the Lord and what He has planned for me. And surrender. Surrender the outcome of the how, the when, on it happening, because everything happens for a reason at its appointed time. As I have said in my second book chapter I wrote. And it does. God has proven that there is an appointed time for everything. My children came exactly when they were meant to be here. Not before, not later, exactly. And I married my husband exactly when I was supposed to. And I got the coaching certificate when I was supposed to. And I'm here today to help you. And then it's trust, humility, trust, surrender, believe. Believe that it is possible. God works in mysterious ways, and He does miracles, big and small. They don't all have to be saving you and curing this and curing that. Yesterday, I went to a coffee shop here in our town, and it was super, super busy. I had taken a friend to go get a procedure done, and he had given me some money, and he's like, go get you and your husband a drink. And so I'm like, I'm going to go to the coffee shop. Well, there were cars everywhere. And I'm like, okay, I don't usually go in, but I'm just going to go in and cut this line. And while I'm standing there in line, oh my gosh, all of a sudden, my niece that lives in California, that her husband is in the Marines, and he's been deployed. I knew she was coming out for a visit, but I didn't know she was out already. Here she comes walking through the door with her daughter. And I got to catch up with them. And that is a miraculous gift. In my eyes, God blessed me. And I was so happy that I got to spend some time with them. And I bought her coffee too. And that's how God can work. He works in us and He works through us to help others. And the last is receive. My friend Rob, he likes to make a lot of jokes. He's a traumatic brain injury survivor. I've told him, I said, your jokes are a way you cope. I said, but I get your jokes and they're funny and they're corny and I love them. And he's like, yeah, you're right. But he has a hard time receiving compliments. And I used to be that way till someone in personal development told me, when you don't accept that compliment, you're telling the person that gave that compliment, no thank you, you just keep it, no. And then you're not allowing them to bless themselves and you. So the next time someone says, hey, you're looking really great today, or you're having a great day today, aren't you? Look at them and say, yes, I am. And own it. And put it here. That message was for you, whoever's listening. It's okay. It's okay to receive. We don't always have to work and struggle and push and push and push. God wants us to receive too. I send you love. I send you blessings. And I haven't gotten much of my tea drank that I'm going to drink now. And you take care. Blessings always.